Welcome to Rambling with Resolvera. And today we have our guest, Dr. Smriti Joshi, and she is going to talk about issues that we usually know but don't talk about, and these are mental health issues. Smriti Joshi is as a long time connection with me. We have been friends, we have been in the same classroom, we have been colleagues, and it's been a great journey knowing her. So thanks, Smriti, for coming in today, and it's great pleasure for Resolvera to have you rambling with us. So, without wasting any more time, let's start with knowing what you do and why is it so important. So, please tell us, your work and how important it is.
Thanks for having me, first of all, Veera. I've enjoyed our ramblings many years ago, and I'm sure these rambling sessions with you, with me, or with anyone else are going to be fantastic because you're a fantastic person and a fantastic professional as
Thank
well.
you.
Um, to answer your question about what I do, I'm a mental health professional. I've been in the field for the past 20 years now. I've worked in diverse settings from schools to hospitals to NGOs, and I finally have found my niche, my calling in telepsychology. And I offer services via an app called Visa, which is an AI based chatbot. I help design interventions for it. I help create the tools and exercises from evidence based psychological interventions like CBT, DBT for the app. And at the same time, I'm also leading a team of about 30 therapists who offer their services via this app. And we offer text based therapy. And I had never imagined that I would finally find my calling in telepsychology. Uh, the reason is very interesting and it has a personal reason to it as well. I was in the US for 6 years. uh, Being on the H4 visa left me unemployed, and I realized I had to depend on the online modalities to stay connected with my family members and parents. And I was getting a lot of mails and messages from my existing clients in India who wanted to stay in touch with me. And I didn't know if it was legal and ethical to do that till then. But US, in a way, my unemployed status made me explore what else I could do. And I realized that telepsychology, telemental health was a huge success already in the US. It had already been running successfully for almost 30, 35 years in the US. And I did my training there. And I realized that it has the potential to reach so many people much more easily because everybody at that point in time had started using things like Facebook, Skype. Now there are many more. But 10 years back, when I entered this field, we were still wanting to connect. We were still wanting to reach out. My clients were reaching out.
Mhm.
And I felt that I could actually reach out to not just my existing clients, but reach out to many more people who needed help but were finding it hard for various reasons to access help in their own geographical locations. And that made me get into this field. And I think currently the need in the pandemic, we've all realized that the need is immense. Whether it is just to vent out or whether it is just to share about their concerns or whether it is to actually reach out for help with something of their own or for their family members,
Right.
people are finding avenues, right? And I feel that being in this space gives me the opportunity to do what I want to do and also do it at a level where I would have never been able to do from just an in-person setting.
Understood. So, I understand that there are people who are reaching out to you and getting services, and you're reaching out to people globally, and that's such a wonderful thing, and it's a wonderful experience. As a professional, I also see that for a lot of people, it takes a toll to come out and talk about their concerns, like taking that first step to reach out to
Mm.
somebody and ask for help is a big issue. But while we are facing this global anxiety and there are so many people coming out and asking for help, yet there is a huge part of the communities that we work with have a major problem in asking for mental health services. And I would like to know, and if you can really share, why do you think, we all know, like professionally, we all have our own point of view, but this space, Rambling with Resolvera, is actually an open portal, and we are conversing about, what you think. And I would like to know, what do you think? Why do people still have so many concerns seeking mental health services? What's stopping them?
I think we've all, as professionals, we all have been trying to work on creating awareness, bring down the stigma that exists around mental health, help seeking for mental health issues, concerns.
Right.
And it's a taboo. It's surprising that even when there are services which are now available from the comfort of your home, like online mental health services, that stigma of being seen entering a counselor or a therapist or a psychiatrist's office is no longer there if you do it via these online modalities. But the stigma, I think the reasons are beyond just uh, being seen accessing these services, or judging oneself for having these needs, because I think mental health is often one of the most ignored aspects, because maybe it's invisible. Even though we all have mental health, it's just like we all have physical health, and we are making sure that we are on different apps for seeking help with losing weight, for eating healthy, for exercising,
Mm-hmm.
different reasons. And there is, people don't think twice before immediately clicking that button, or maybe reaching out to a nutritionist and going out there, because that's like that's my self care, and I'm very conscious and I want to take care of my health. But then health is very much focused on the physical attributes, not realizing that the mind body relationship is inseparable. It's like it's hand in hand. You can't separate the two: a healthy body and a healthy mind, and a healthy
Mm-hmm.
mind leading to a healthy body.
Correct.
And uh, I'll give you one example. We decided to run community support, uh, service, run by volunteers for frontline workers in India, because right now you all know how situation is here with regards to the pandemic, and they're reeling under so much pressure, and there's so much difficult emotions that they are going through, difficult scenarios. There has been loss, etc. We have uh, we have like about 30 people offering this support. We have about 8 hours of slots dedicated to this, free of cost. We haven't had even one session booked. So you can realize that professionals who may be advocating for support for their clients, understanding there is a need. It could be time issue. People don't find the time for it. But I also see it as ignoring this part of it, because you're still running and you're still being able to carry on and going out to your work every day. But the impact it is slowly having on your physical health is something that people need to understand, and also need to understand that mental health is not having mental illness. Mental health is for all. And
Right.
help seeking doesn't mean that you seek help for a mental illness, but you just seek help to just just go on in your life and keep doing things that you like to do, regardless of whatever else is happening around you. So just being resilient as well.
I understand. So it's more like understanding that, if you have a fever, if you have a cold and it's prolonged and it's not going away with your regular home remedies and all the
Yeah.
other stuff, you need to go to a doctor. It's the same thing. Like if you're not feeling good about something and you're stressed out or you're depressed or you're going through a prolonged feeling of sadness or grieving a loss, and you need to move on in life, yet something is kind of pulling you back, that's the time that you should get an appointment booked or seek information from somebody who knows mental health services better, like somebody like you, a professional who can actually help them in their own time through the online mental health services, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what you mentioned were like when the red flags are starting to show, when you're noticing like, oh, okay, like I have a runny nose and a cough, and it could be allergy, or it could be just something in the air, and I doing all the home remedies, but nothing works and it's getting worse. But I would actually say that the moment you realize, so even for people who may not have all these signs, for people who are just on social media looking at what's the situation with COVID now, what are
Absolutely.
vaccine slots available, can I get help for my relative with an oxygen concentrator? And you realize that you haven't slept that night. And you realize that next morning you're waking up with that worry, will my relative get that help? So we don't know how big this worry would, balloon into or grow into. And
Correct.
uh, there are many services, I would say, which are available. It could be just a free helpline. It doesn't have to be a paid service to begin with. But what I'm suggesting is that when you feel that burden on yourself, uh, of specifically now when things feel out of control, it doesn't even have to be like something like an illness to be diagnosed or something. But if you just feel that burden on your heart, on your mind, and you realize you're having just beginning to have sleepless nights, the earlier we catch it, the better it is.
Correct, correct. So I believe that, reading the news regularly about, and following the news that's currently like, about India and around the world, it has been like this since last year, since it was called a global pandemic. It has been like, people who had COVID, who lost a, loved one from the family, or a family or a friend. It is a direct trauma, but constantly following the news and constantly, tracking what's going on and the crisis, it's an indirect trauma, right? And
Absolutely.
both of these have a mental health impact on an individual. If God forbid nothing is happening to a family, but the constant watching of the news and getting the updates can give you sleepless nights and can
Absolutely.
affect your work. So, and that is when, mental health services, especially if they are available online, especially during a situation where, you cannot step out of your house and you're doing everything from home. Like I see you're working from home, you see I'm working from home, amongst all our responsibilities here. How would you say that the mental health services have actually taken a major step in reaching out to people? How these online mental health services have actually helped? Because traditionally, we would be in a counseling room, we would be, like somebody would come in
On the
and the
couch.
doors are closed, highly confidential. But, like at home, there are very, like, the boundaries are like really blurry, and you have to grab these time out. But at the same time, from not a professional point of view, but from an individual point of view, these online services reach out to a person's personal space, and you reach out to that person. So, can you expand on the idea of online mental health services, how they are helping individually and as well as like on a community basis? So, in our social work language, the micro and the meso level.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to tell you that the online mental health services have already, I think, made an impact in kind of making services accessible to a large number of people. We've seen an increase on Visa's services. We've seen an increase in service usage by growing. It's gone up by 70%, which is like we had not imagined that uh, pandemic, a situation like this could actually shake people out of uh, their comfort zone, of just being with that discomfort, of that sleepless night, of ruminating, of worrying, or just talking it out with a friend, but actually stepping out of that zone, are willing to share, are willing to talk. But what is important is to understand that there is a wide variety of service that is available now. It is important that people understand what will be more helpful for me right now. And I think the first step, like I said, could be just speaking to any professional that you feel will hear you out. It could be a helpline, it could be even your general physician offering any support online. so that they can guide you in the right direction, that okay, I feel this part I can take care of, but then there is this major chunk that you're talking about in terms of not feeling good, not not being able to sleep, or ruminating too much, or having a lot of difficult thoughts, and I think you need help from a mental health professional. Now, like you said, that these are times when in-person support is also getting hard to access, because therapists are also worried about their safety, and they have that right to be safe and offer services from a distance. And a lot of people who were offering in-person services across the world have turned towards telepsychology or telemental health, whether it is psychiatrists, whether it is psychologists. They're trying to manage as much as they can via online mental health services, because like I said again, it really helps in scaling the services, and it really helps in reaching out to more people than what they could do in their in-person sessions. So I think because like you said, that it the services are brought in right into your own personal space. So some of them are very discreet, like the services advisor offers are text based. So people who are in scenarios in their home during the pandemic where they are, sharing their workspace, their living space with their partner for longer durations than when they were doing when the pandemic was not there. For example, both the partners could go out in their own space, spend 10 hours away from each other, come back to the home, come back to their place. And in those 10 hours outside the home, they could decide, okay, today I need to go and speak to a counselor or a therapist. They would make time for that, and they would go out and meet the therapist in their office. But how do they do it from their home when their children, their partner, everyone's around? And then online mental health services or telemental health services really help with this, because you could choose one spot in your room and you could request, like how we make requests for our official meetings, that I don't want to be disturbed. I think if you are able to make that request even for this, that this is important for me, I need to seek this support, so I'm able to be support myself and my family better. You can reach that service right from your own comfort zone.
So,
Or if it's like a text-based service, you could even be sitting with your partner and just texting with your therapist or just talking. I mean, though it's not advisable really, because you need to be present, as they say in a session, but yet
right.
it is something which is available to you in that mode. And we have had many cases where people have been pushed into abusive scenarios because of the pandemic, where domestic violence and conflicts have increased because of staying together for longer durations. And people have found seeking services online has been really helpful, because it is providing them with at least some space to vent out, and also learn how to keep themselves emotionally safe in that moment where you actually can't reach out or even make that telephone call sometimes.
Understandable. So, since you're working with diverse population across the globe, um, around this time, what are the specific mental health needs that you're looking for? And this is expanding on our question on the online mental health services. So, what I don't want to know like specific cases, obviously, it's a public
Of
portal, but
course.
what are the screaming needs that are coming out? Is it more like is it more depression, is it more trauma, is it more anxiety? So what's really coming in, what's the highest need? Or it could be like equally everything at the same level.
Mhm.
But if you take a step back as a professional, just a step back to give it like an outside view, in the bar graph, what do you see is kind of catching up? And I'm not
I
just talking
think,
about India, I'm talking about at a global level,
okay,
because this is
yeah,
going to be around global. So that's why.
yeah. I think if I can give you a picture that helps you see what's happened over the past 1 year, because things have changed
Mm-hmm.
in this 1 year. When the pandemic began, or even before the pandemic, people were bringing in issues like work related concerns. They wanted to work on relationships. There were different buckets that people were bringing in, their own anxieties. Then the pandemic happened, and there was an increase in anxiety, health anxiety, fear, uh, overwhelmed. People were very overwhelmed, even if there was no diagnosable condition, because at Biza, we do not offer diagnostic or prescriptive services, but we do have people who have a diagnosis, but they are looking for more support, additional support to augment their existing therapy or treatment that they are following. And we got a lot of these people suddenly who had lost access to in-person support and services that they were already accessing, and people were still deciding, professionals were still deciding, should we switch to online, how do we manage it? And in that gap, online services was something that came to the rescue of a lot of these people.
Correct.
And so they brought in not just their own conditions, which they were already seeking help for, but they also brought in that sense of loss, a sense of anxiety about just the help seeking part itself, that will I ever be able to connect with my therapist again? Will I ever be able to seek in person support again? They were very skeptical about the help they would receive from us at that point in time. But I think what helped them was the continuity that an online service can provide, in terms of, say, even if it's a video or audio based session that somebody is offering, there always asynchronous messaging that can happen in between two sessions. So there was a holding space that a lot of services like Wiser could provide for these people, where people felt safe. They felt, okay, at least we have some place where we can go and talk and share and get point in time support. So, like I said, there was a lot of overwhelm, there was a lot of anxiety, there was a lot of specifically health anxiety. There was fear about meeting people. There was that feeling of collect loss of routine, and then as the year progressed, and there was hope around the pandemic going away and vaccinations probably coming in, there was anxiety maintained about what would the vaccinations be like, what would be the side effects, will I get vaccinated, will I not get vaccinated. There was also a lot of concern around returning to work for a lot of people. So that was again something that went very high when the pandemic had started to go take a dip. The numbers were going down across the globe, because it's happened in waves. And as people, like you said, people were also following up what was happening in the other parts of the world on the social media. For example, when the second wave happened in the UK, or when it happened in the US, people across in other countries were like, oh, will it happen in our country, and how will we manage it? And in some countries, people just started taking it for granted, took off their masks. That led to more anxiety in some other people who were very conscious.
Correct.
And uh, uh, slowly, now what we are seeing in this particular phase, now when most countries have seen second waves, they're anticipating a third wave, there is intense burnout, there is a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma, because now, earlier it was, oh, something is happening in that part of the world, that part of the globe, then it reached closer home, then it reached inside your homes. Now we, all of us, know at least someone, or we have lost someone, or we know someone who's lost a couple of relatives. It's not just one. It's hard to count how many people, the community, in how much loss has happened in the community. So, and then there is this constant fear around other comorbid conditions that are now coming in, for example, the black fungus or the white fungus. And there are these different things coming in. And people are tired, and they're losing hope as well. So there is depression, burnout, compassion fatigue from the frontline workers. They're breaking down. Uh, we've had cases here in our part of the world with suicides increasing in the frontline workers because they're helpless. So if you see, there's been a change in even the signs and symptoms that people are bringing in from when the pandemic started to
Correct.
this point in time, where people are losing hope about, will we ever be able to get out of this situation? What will So earlier it was that there would be a new normal, but what would be the new normal? Even that is not clear right now, because we're still not sure if we can step out of our houses safely even after the vaccine. So none of what I said was to create more anxiety in people who may be listening to this. It is also to help you see that feelings are not permanent; they change
Hmm.
over a period of time. And just how we have overcome a certain phase earlier, we'll be able to overcome this as well. And at this point in time, like you said, Veera, help is required at a community level, not just individual seeking
Correct.
support for themselves. And it's now at a community level. And again, when it comes to community, I think online mental health has the greatest reach, the greatest ability to scale and increase accessibility.
That's a wonderful segue to our next question, Smriti, because what you just said is, it's not limited to the political boundaries of one country, but it is actually global. The burnout, the increase in suicide cases, the depression, the anxiety, the trauma that you are talking about, it's across the globe. Like, when we had, rise in cases in the US, we also saw our frontline workers, becoming suicidal, and there were some cases of, people deciding to take the decision to commit a suicide. And it's heartbreaking. It's not only heartbreaking for the family that loses the loved one, but it's also heartbreaking for the community in general. And that's when people start triggering, the thought of, I need to talk to somebody, or I wish I could talk to somebody. So in a situation like this, Smriti, my next question to you would be that I know we are providing the Visa information through our box, during this recording and during this interview. We will be providing that information to the people who are watching this. But at the same time, I would like to know for the people who are watching, like if there's a community, or if there is an individual or a group that wants to reach out to you for services. There are individual people who want to reach out to you for services. How can they reach out to you? Many people know Visa, but then there are many more who don't. So how can they reach out to you? What are the global tools? Sorry, not the global. What are the internet tools that they can search to find you?
You could simply go to an app store or a Play Store, so a Google Play Store or an iOS App Store, and just search Visa.
Hmm.
We have two apps. One is Visa for generic conversations, just renting out space, mental health concerns. And there is one specific for sleep as well. And we were recently also won the best app award for the Visa for Sleep version in India. Uh,
Yay!
so we have sleep stories, and it helps you set sleep routine and works on sleep hygiene. And there are also, like I said, Visa has three, if you look at it as a pyramid, at the bottom, for a lot of people who may not need to speak to a professional, but they would prefer self-guided help, we have
Right.
Visa the bot. And Visa the bot, which is an automated program that talks to you
Hmm.
when you put in some input to it, give some input to it, say, I'm not feeling well, I'm stressed, I had a bad day at work, I'm feeling low, there's trauma. So you could just try anything, and it will initiate a conversation on that area, and then make a recommendation for a certain exercise or a tool that can bring point in type support. And all these
Wow.
exercises are evidence based. For example, it could be a grounding exercise for panic, or it could be a mindfulness breathing exercise for anxiety. And even when people are not feeling very confident about and acting on an impulse that they may be having about, say, self-harm, or just having difficult thoughts about having hope or ending their life, there are pathways in Visa which escalates and takes them to helplines to manage that moment, talk it out, and then connect with helplines to seek more in-person support for their concerns. And then for people who want something more, and let me tell you, the basic app is free for all.
Okay.
But because we also had to sustain and maintain the team that we have and pay their salaries, we've added some paid aspects to it, which are some tools and exercises in Visa, and also the human support in terms of coaches or therapists that are available to offer you more support. You can book sessions with them at a very
Hmm.
reasonable cost, much reasonable than what people pay in person. And like I said, you can look it up on App Store or Play Store, or just Google Visa, or our website is www.visa.io. It's
Wow,
simple.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Like it also, like, as you were talking, I'm thinking that, yeah, like, as a professional, we have been losing our sleep as well. We have been going through a lot of indirect trauma, professionals, and we just talked about, frontline workers becoming suicidal and, committing suicides and going through a severe depression and compassion fatigue. These are professional hazards in our field, in any healthcare
Mhm.
field, as I would say. And current pandemic situation has, like it's kind of bubbled up multiple times. So everywhere, who works in a healthcare, you ask them, how's it going? And the answer is, don't ask,
Yeah,
you
don't
know,
ask.
or
Yeah.
I have been sitting for like 12 hours reaching out to my patients or reaching out to my, members in the healthcare field, and I have been reaching only a handful. I don't know how the others are doing. It's stressful. Everybody's asking for services. I don't know. So there's like a lot of, you hear the tone is low, you hear like this lack of energy, but every morning we are trying to push it. And as much as we are helping the colleagues around, it still, comes down to a level where you want to just sit back, talk to somebody, just vent out. So what are the services available for the self-care for the professionals? Because I think if we are not able to take care of ourselves, we are really not able to take care of others. So there is like, there is care required for the caregiver also. So
Absolutely.
what's there for the caregivers? What's there for the professionals? And by caregivers, I mean professionals, specifically the self-care.
So, if you're asking specifically on Visa, we have created specific tools and conversations around the pandemic and anxiety. And it talks about self-care as well, which is useful for not just the generic population, but the professionals, healthcare workers could also use it. And there has been use cases where professionals across the globe have used it and said, hey, I felt better using it, and I think I'm going to recommend it to my clients as well. Because Visa is not restricted to a certain kind of disorder or concern. It's very broad. So I would say one must try it and see if it helps. At least if it cannot, like we know things are out of control right now. It may not fix a lot of things for us. But what it does is when we reach out, whether it's Wise or I would say whether it's any other, uh, say even if it's a support group like the one I was mentioning, that Visa team has decided to open up some of its, on a voluntary basis, some of our slots for healthcare professionals to just come and talk to us. And maybe I could share a link with you and you could kind of put it up as well for people.
Absolutely.
It's online, so people can access it from anywhere probably. um, and uh, so what it does is that when you get to vent out and share and talk and get that point in time support, it just makes you more mindful about the here and now. And it's something that I want to just share as somebody working in the field, and noticing myself and my team totally heading for burnout at this point in time. I recently even organized a session for my team with some very supportive therapists from the US, who came forward and said that you people are constantly supporting people, and I think the situation is much worse in India right now than it's in the US. So what can we do for you? So I think as professionals, this is something that we could offer. So wherever we feel that we are slightly in a more better condition, whether it's because we've got vaccines or whether it's because the phase for now has ended here, it seems like going down. How can we support our community? I mean, now the sense is of a more of a global community than communities within a specific country. So we were very touched by their gesture when they came and they offered this support. So I think this is what we could all do for each other as well. And also just remember that as much as we want to be there as a professional, and I know a lot, I know it's hard. Doctors are the worst patients.
Yeah,
themselves, because it's very hard to own up that I have a problem or I need to go and
right.
seek help
So
for
there's a
something.
huge denial. There's a huge
Huge
denial
denial,
there.
huge denial. So right now it's time to kind of acknowledge that it's just normal for me to feel like this, because if I wouldn't be feeling that this, I would question that, I'm not a superman or a superhuman. It's absolutely normal to feel what you're feeling, and there is help available, and it comes with that acknowledgement that I cannot pour from an empty cup, you know.
Absolutely. And you're so right in saying that because, sometimes as professionals, and I'm sure you went through the same feeling, like, sometimes I have been and we both have been in the field for 20 years now. Like somewhere we start teaching ourselves that I am the therapist or I am the professional. And if I get through that, if I get into depression or if I get into anxiety or if I feel traumatized, then it's countertransference. It's probably, resonating the patient's IC or the client's IC. So I should not be like that. So, we
How can I feel like this when I have all the skills? You know, that's
exactly.
what came to
Like
me
I am the one
when it first
who's
hit me.
skilled. I'm the one who's skilled. How can I feel like
And
that,
also, I
right?
think sometimes the family and the community expects that from you, like that you know everything, so you must be very good at it. But that's not true, because ultimately we're all humans before any of these roles that we picked up for ourselves many years down the line
Exactly. So it's
for
like the
ourselves.
professional role that, the environment expects of you. And
Yeah,
then, influenced by the environment and by our own professional goals and responsibilities, we as professionals, we try to, create a block around ourselves. We shell ourselves and we say, oh, well, I am the one, I have the skills, I cannot have this. But inside, deep inside, I know I'm going through it, and there is a denial. I
absolutely.
think it is very important here that we start addressing, the issues and we acknowledge that, yes, I'm going through the same problem and it's okay for me to talk about it, and crush that denial and move ahead, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, it and this is for everyone, but specifically for healthcare professionals, para healthcare professionals, that if you allow yourself to be vulnerable and are able to address your own needs, then that goal of being completely present for your patients, for your clients, for people you're caring for, you'll be able to fulfill that in more fulfilling ways for yourself than come back frustrated and say, oh, I couldn't do this, and I had imagined I would be doing this much, but I couldn't do that much, or I couldn't help this patient as much. So I think being able to address your own vulnerabilities, one, you'll be a great role model for all your clients or patients who find it hard to seek help. And second, I think more importantly, it will help you be that person you really want to be in your professional role as well.
Wow. Okay, this was like lovely, Smriti. Thanks for sharing all this great information and these tips because I think these are serious trying times and the human race across the
Yeah.
world is facing so much of crisis. Like not a single country, not a single family has not been impacted by COVID. So the pandemic has affected, each one of us in a different way. But I believe that what we really talked and discussed here is the similarity in our concerns, the similarity in the needs of mental health and how important a professional, a mental health professional is in the life of an individual on a community level, at a global level. So thank you so much for making this time. And I know you're very busy. You're managing a lot of things. As we say, you wear a lot of hats. With professionals, we have been used to juggling our hats and just changing. So thanks for making this time out and for us and giving all this valuable information. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Veera. Like I say again, and I'm looking forward to more conversations with you and see you having these conversations with other professionals as well. It's always a learning experience to have these conversations with you.
Absolutely. So we are asking our viewers to, watch this and, get in touch with you, or, if they identify somebody among their family or friends, they can actually refer them to WISA and ask them to seek help when there is need. And even for professionals, to reach out and, as you said, like, be more flexible about yourself. Don't stand rigid and deny. So that is something very important. And also, uh, you know, the information that is being shared here is so important for everybody who's watching this, and we would be coming up with more such, rambling with Resolvera interviews, and we'll be talking to professionals across the world, bringing them in. So there are many more guests who would be coming, and I look forward to, bringing you again, Smriti, to focus on specific topics and work around them. So definitely here at this time, I would ask all the viewers to, subscribe to this YouTube channel of Resolvera, like it and share it, because this is so important. And this is what we do. This is what we are here for, reaching out, opening the doors to, people to come in, ask for help. And we are always here for you, open for you. Okay. So please do not hesitate to subscribe and like the channel. Thank you so much, Smriti. And I would also request you to, share it among your colleagues and friends and people so that they can reach out, because we are definitely at Resolvera trying to use this platform to reach out to people and help them understand that it's, it's not a taboo to reach out. It's not a restriction when you ask for mental health. So it is a part of your body. There's mind and body together. It's not separate. So go ahead. Thank you so much, Smriti.